We are live. It looks like the numbers have evened out. Rylan, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Diana. Really excited for this webinar and excited to show everyone how to find more prospects, how to grow, how to get in front of more people, how to get people to respond, all that good stuff. So excited for this.
Yeah, and the best part too is there's so much AI now that helps solve this problem. And it's really cool to both use that, but also focus on some of the human element of the relationship to optimize your entire practice. So I'm so excited that you're here with me. For those of you who don't know Rylan, Rylan is the co-founder of WealthFeed. WealthFeed, Rylan, can you give us like maybe a 15-second pitch on what WealthFeed does?
Yeah, definitely. So again, I'm Rylan Folts, co-founder of WealthFeed, and we really built a prospecting platform to help advisors grow from personal experience. So I was a financial advisor. I worked at Osaic and then an RAA for some time, as well as JP Morgan, and I struggled with organic growth personally. And so what we set out to build is a prospecting platform, really all centered around money in motion, trying to find people at the right time, at the right place, and layer in some unique data like net worth and income and where they went to school and what they do for work, and really help advisors find their right audience. And then we layer on a lot of marketing solutions from email to direct mail to LinkedIn to try to give an advisor kind of a one-stop shop to find prospects and reach out to them. So super excited to dive in and share more details on it.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much, Rylan, for being here. And for the rest of the audience, my name is Diana Cabrices. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Wealthtender. Wealthtender is the most popular online financial advisor directory. Consumers come around 50,000 consumers every month to our site to find a financial advisor. But we're putting all of the strategies on your profile page that help you actually get found in the first place, especially now with AI search coming into the picture and people using tools like ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude to find financial advisors. So we have all the strategies plugged in. I'm going to teach you some of those strategies today because they're also strategies you should have plugged in on your website as well. So today's session is truly two-part. And we do have a quick agenda that we'll just roll through here. First, we're going to cover how to use AI to prospect the modern way, right? It has gotten a bit easier, but there's some strategy required. Then we'll actually look at the full system and we'll take a look at WealthFeed today as well. And we'll show you some examples of true follow-up. Like here are some different strategies depending on the platform. Here's what you should be saying as an advisor trying to communicate with a prospect. What prospects are looking for before they respond. This is really important. That's that second half of the webinar where we're going to talk about the strategies that will help you actually pass their trust check, right? That gut check that they're doing, but now they're doing it online to do some research on you. And we'll cover that. So that'll be a 3-part strategy playbook that you'll get. By the way, today's session is being recorded. There is a chat box open for you to communicate with us. Drop any comments, any thoughts, maybe questions as well. We do have a Q&A box you can use here in Zoom. That's probably the best place to put your questions. We will do a live Q&A at the end of the session as well. And we have some support in the chat. So if you have questions along the way, you might get some answers live, or we will answer them in that live Q&A segment. Okay, Rylan, you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect. All right, I always like to check the chat really quick before we fully kick off. We did have some people tune in. Thank you, guys. We've got Great Barrington, Massachusetts, Phoenix, Bay Area, Houston. So we're all over. Yes, Avanti, thank you for asking that. You just finished my sentence. The recording will be shared today, and we'll share our slide deck with you as well. So you'll have both of those assets. We'll send that out via email, typically within 48 hours of the session. Okay, how to use AI to prospect the modern way. First off, Rylan, AI and prospecting in general has changed so much for financial advisors, especially over the past couple of years. Like, what change have you seen in this space that's gotten you excited and hands-on building WealthFeed?
Yeah, I think off the bat, it's saving advisors tons of time of who their ideal prospect is. As you know, I look back when I was an advisor 4 years ago and spending hours and hours on Zillow looking for people who bought a home in my neighborhood and then trying to find their contact information and scouring LinkedIn for their work email and then generating a list to, you know, end up inviting them to an event. And so I think what AI and for every type of administrative task, it's saving a ton of time. And so the good thing is giving that time back to more important things. And so I think the biggest advantage of what we do is help advisors kind of one automate, outreach to save time, but also in the audience building, because it's so easy now to generate content. And like you said, Diana, with ChatGPT and Claude, like content is you could snap of fingers and generate. The harder part is finding that audience, who to be reaching out to, what their accurate contact information is, what the cadence structure is, what you should be saying, how to be human, so all that good stuff. But I think the biggest impact that we've seen in prospecting is definitely just the time savings of trying to find people when they need help most. And what I've noticed is 9 times out of 10, that's a life event that they gone through, whether they moved or got a divorce or sold their business. And so that's a little bit of what we surface to advisors.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up life events because that's also what ends up impacting the meeting that they're going to have with the
Hmm.
advisor from a prospect and from a client lens as well. So I love that you bring up life events. And what I'm hearing is like the timing is really important, but also the intent behind it, especially when we're using AI. And that really is going to open us up to this section here because if you want to successfully prospect with an AI tool to help you reach more people, to help you scale, I agree. Like you can't just be another message, right? You have to be right on
Hmm.
time and with the right messaging. So there's some timing and intent behind it. That's really, really important. And Rylan, I would say, thanks to AI now, finding high intent prospects may have gotten a bit easier, right? But there's still something on the other side, that human element, that strategy, that consistency, that frequency that you talked about, and beyond
Hmm.
how you're running your meeting. But really, that requires a good reputation as well, because these prospects are going to go online and they're going to say, all right, this person just contacted me. Let me look them up. Whether that's on
Hmm.
ChatGPT, where they're saying, can you please tell me a little bit more information about this advisor? He reached out to me, because that's the type of conversation we're having with tools like ChatGPT, and get some feedback. And, do you have what it takes digitally now to make sure you actually get good feedback? And that's what's surfaced to the
Hmm.
prospect, or when they're searching in their area for a top advisor near them and you pop up, right? That's probably a good validation for them if they've received a communication from you, thanks to being able to
Hmm.
find them using AI tools. So that's what we're covering in today's session. Rylan, I think let's jump right into the technology. I'd love to see, how does this work? How do you find prospects with money in motion? And how can an advisor go on WealthFeed and actually send out messages? I'd love to see all of these things.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll fire up the platform here and share
Okay,
my screen. So let me
perfect.
do that here. Um,
All right.
perfect.
Yep. Okay, there we go. Sorry, just saw the
Nope,
request.
all good. Here we go. Are you guys able to see my screen?
I'm gonna start
Perfect.
sharing mine. Yep, there we go.
Awesome. Yeah, and then one thing too that what you said, Diana, is how AI is doing all this great stuff. The one thing I think where advisors struggle is building trust instantly, and so I think AI could do really anything except build trust nowadays. And so
Yep.
that's where I think when someone Googles your name, okay, how can you build that trust instantly, digitally, as well as we'll talk about some other unique touch points like direct mail and email and LinkedIn and just building kind of credibility, because that's we're in managing money, and the biggest thing about managing money is trust. That's the first thing people think about before handing over their life savings to an advisor. And so those are the type of things that we're really helping advisors do. And I'll start kind of on our audience building side that I call Discover Money in Motion. So we have a robust database, and under the hood, we're aggregating a lot of data, what I'll show you. So advisors that get access to WealthFeed get access to our a whole database across the US. We aggregate individuals going through life events in all 50 states, every zip code, county, state across the US. And what you could do then, and I'll just type in Phoenix, Arizona. I know someone is from here, and I'm actually from Phoenix, Arizona, so born and raised. So I'll start there. But this is where you could start building your niche. Like step one, I think, of every and if anyone's like taking notes or trying to take takeaways, like is to who's your ideal client? I think that's what you have to think about. And I know every advisor kind of says, well, I'll take anyone with money. And I know that's like a great way to start, but really those that are having success on the platform and that are growing net new assets under management really have a focus. And that focus that I've seen in different ways. One, it could be, maybe upstream, high net worth, ultra high net worth. Maybe it's younger professionals. Maybe it's retirees. Maybe it's doctors or a specific industry. And so our platform really helps you narrow down that list and really focus on that specific niche. Because that's if you're sending marketing materials kind of generally, and let's say I got in one of your marketing campaigns and it's about retirement, I'm not going to look at like that's not important to me. But if you're sending me content on maybe a business owner, younger professional in tech, it's stuff that like, hey, how do I manage RSUs or equity comp and stuff like that? That's what's interesting in my life. And so you got to think about what marketing materials you're sending to that audience. And WealthFeed just really helps you filter that down. So something unique on our platform is aggregating net worth data. We aggregate a lot of sources trying to get to an accurate liquid net worth stance of that individual. And so let's say I'm an advisor in Phoenix. I want to, start reaching out to people between 500 grand and let's say 5 million. That's my sweet spot. Maybe there's a certain age range I could do, a gender, an industry. We'll talk through. I actually went to University of Arizona. So when I was prospecting, I always like to find U of A alumni so I could do that. So little things you could do to build trust instantly through our platform. And that just takes down the data from a couple 100,000 to here's 5,000 U of A alumni that's worth 500 to 1 million that lives in Phoenix, Arizona. Maybe that's a great starting point. Some of the other things on our platform that we do is aggregate money and motion, those life events, to make it a little more right time, right place. And so through all our third party sources, it's all public data actually that we aggregate a lot of this events. So you could think of SEC filings, court documents, someone changes a job on LinkedIn, that's all public data that we could aggregate. And so from an advisor's lens, you could really filter down. Maybe you want to focus on U of A alumni in Phoenix that got a new job or just inherited money or just moved to Phoenix or just had a baby. These are all different life events that you could kind of focus on, and then generate content that I'll show you that's more specific to this audience. At the end of the day, my favorite way to filter down kind of our spot is this map view. It's kind of brings it to life. It's an aerial view. So there's obviously a lot of low hanging fruit to any advisor's viewpoint. Maybe it's people around the office, maybe it's people in their neighborhood that went to the same college or that are doctors or whatever your ideal niche is. And every one of these dots, if I'm in Phoenix, is a U of A alum. Like this is a great kind of fishing pool to win new business. So those are the type of things that how we help advisors get in front of a unique audience all around money emotion. At the end of the day, what we're providing is all the accurate contact information. So I'll show you a sample lead here. Name, phone number, email, LinkedIn, income range, net worth, the home value. We even go as far as trying to find relatives. We have a lot of unique data sources that could find, are they married? Who's their parents? What's their parents' net worth? A lot of these things that factor into an ideal prospect around it. And so that's kind of step one in the process is identifying your niche and then
Mhm.
kind of moving towards like the meat and potatoes of okay, what now to do? You have this great audience. How do I reach them? How do I build trust? What's the frequency? What's all the impact? That's where our marketing hub comes to life. And so we're full end to end. So from identify that lead to now let's drip on them. That's kind of what we do in different ways. So we have a couple different channels that we incorporate in the platform, LinkedIn, automation and messaging, email automation, and emails going out the door, direct mail from postcards and handwritten notes. And I think in all the noise with AI, I think we're going to see a kind of barbell strategy of from so digital that we are in to like kind of analog. And so we brought in these handwritten notes, and I love hitting on them because it's just
So
an
cool.
older way to market. And I think what maybe 5, 10 years ago might yield 1% success. Now we're seeing, 5, 10x of that in
Yep.
today's world is just kind of bringing more impact. And this is how you build trust is sending a one-off, handwritten note to someone that's hand stamped, that has your brand, maybe a QR code to your website or an event that you're doing. And I'll get into more specific messaging, but it's all about right time, right place. Hey, I'm a local advisor. I live on Fifth Street, and given market volatility in the Middle East, I'm reaching out to the neighborhood and giving everyone a free financial second set of eyes, free, portfolio audit, as I used to call. So, just different things you could do to build trust,
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot of different touch points that you could layer in here. And if you're not doing direct mail, it's something to think about doing, day one of incorporating in your strategy. So, Diana, anything you want to add as I'm kind of keep rambling on here?
No, I think that's such a cool feature. And I agree with you, like the digital versus the analog, where, getting something physical that you can touch and see it's just meaningful, and it leaves a mark, I should say that. And whether it's a good one or a bad one, who knows? But it in many cases, it seems to be good marks, and people give good feedback on this. So I think handwritten notes is fantastic. And I really just like how the life events are also labeled in the platform, because
Hmm.
there's so much more data just on that topic alone. I know I referenced it earlier. I see some familiar names on this webinar too. A lot of I do also work with the team over at Jump, and the data on life events and like what are those top 5 life events. All of that is becoming more and more available thanks to AI, and conversational intelligence, meeting intelligence, and so you talked about career change, Rylan. That's one of the top 5 life events, significant life events that impacts the way a prospect or a client shows up to a meeting, what their level of sentiment is, and what kind of EQ strategies the advisor can deploy to like
Hmm.
really make that prospect into a client or turn that client into a raving client. So the touch points all connect, right? When you can start
Hmm.
something on the prospecting side that's emotional, that is targeted, that's timely, like all of that just works out. I believe everything great in business happens at the right timing. And
Hmm.
so I love just the timeliness and the intention behind this. So we did have
Yeah.
we had a question in the chat from one of your big fans. And he said, big fan, when you go from the Discover tab to the My Base tabs, all the filters go away. Is there a way to filter by catalyst once they are in my database?
Yeah, great question. So the discover to my database is just we work off a credit system, so you could kind of look through the leads all across the country, and you get credits part of your subscription to like unlock data, and you'll get all that contact information. But yes, once my database is just kind of like your purchase prospects, and you can filter. You just drop down those filters, and then you could filter for the catalyst once you purchase them. So definitely, that's the kind of difference from my database to discover around it. But great question, Jacob.
Thanks, Jacob.
Um, one thing I did want to add to your point, Diana, is just like in terms of like, hey, okay, now I don't know what to say, or like how I coming off maybe a little bit cold in prospecting. I just never, a lot of advisors haven't done marketing or outreach. And what I would say is like, think of things to give you an excuse to reach out to. That's why I kind of hit on alma mater, and we'll show you an example. The other one is market volatility. So here's a market volatility note that is kind of working great. I think you just take advantage of when markets are up, and when markets are down, a lot of bad advisors get exposed and not reaching out to their clients. And so, like, here's something
Yep.
that's like, hey, I just want to introduce you. Like, I'm a local advisor here in XYZ city. With everything going on and global tensions, like the situation in Iran, markets have been a bit more volatile. Hey, I'm offering a complimentary second opinion. Just leave it like that, and if they have questions, maybe their advisor is not reaching out, maybe they have a robo advisor and they're not getting the questions answered. Like these are the things that are really impacting, the local community and building your brand.
That is like so perfectly said. It is, there is proof, there is research data out there that shows that when markets go down, like the bad quote unquote, financial advisors that give us all a bad reputation, they are the ones that really are not reaching out. So it is kind of the
Hmm.
perfect time for you to be reaching out during that
Hmm.
period. And so I think this is awesome. Thanks for showing us this preview here.
Yeah.
And I love hearing that it's worked for other advisors too. And
Hmm.
actually, that's timely because if you can see my screen, on this next slide, we have another raving fan. I don't know if he's on our webinar today. I should check. If you are, hi, Jason. But I love this feedback that he gave because I think what you can find in feedback is some sort of education, like peer-to-peer education. So if I'm a financial advisor, I'm looking to what my peers are saying. And he said that WealthFeed has completely transformed the prospecting approach in their firm, 24 prospecting meetings just in the first month. So that's like whole new level of success and efficiency. And they did mention they built a hyper targeted list with their niche. So I know you said, Rylan,
Hmm.
that's what works really well using AI to prospect. Um, and instead of wasting time on broad searches, we're connecting with the right people, right time, right time. WealthFeed is the tool to have. That is such a great testimonial, and it's very helpful because it also shows exactly what he did on the platform. Love
Yeah, no, I think it just goes to, again, if anyone's on this call that's like, hey, I don't know how to grow, or I want to grow and get to the next level, I think it just starts with building that niche and really being hyper focused, and that's going to set you apart from any other advisor, even in your area itself. So, no, it's this is great, great quote from Jason there.
Yep. And Jason is also on Wealthtender. And so if you're here, we're definitely going to talk about Wealthtender. You can learn a little bit more. Some of you are probably already on the platform. If you've heard me talk about some of these strategies, totally fine to stick around and hear it again. There's always something new that we're layering in because this is all changing so fast, this information. So we're going to definitely talk about, how having the right strategy will then motivate these prospects to actually want to respond if they don't already. They might be just motivated alone by the card, and that is
Mhm.
wonderful. But we may not always have that level of success, right? So we want to make sure what we're building on our end from the advisor side, something we can control, is that
Mhm.
digital profile, so that if they do go searching for us or they do want to really validate their decision in their own research, they like what they find. So that's what this
Mhm.
next part of the webinar is going to focus on. All right, what are they looking for before they respond? First off, I think the most general way to put it is prospects are looking for answers online. And a lot of the times they don't necessarily find them. And sometimes they do, but we know from data they're looking at client reviews. They're looking for, sorry, my throat just got so dry.
No,
All right. I love when that happens live on a webinar. And I just
no
like got
worries.
so dry and it felt like, okay, all right, I'm back. So they're looking for reviews. They're also looking for like your expertise, proof that you can serve them, right? So maybe in their search for online client reviews that they're reading, they're looking for words that they can relate to because they're going through a similar situation. They're looking for your personality. They're looking for transparency. What we have found that's quite interesting though is while 83% of prospects have reported, hey, we want to go online and we want to read online reviews from a financial advisor, less than 10% of advisors are actually using online reviews in their strategy. We've had the SEC marketing rule updated for quite a few years now, right? It's been a while at this point. Most states have the green light. Some are still not there, but most SEC or all SEC registered advisors and FINRA based advisors can use testimonials in their marketing. So this is a really big gap because we also know this is where most advisors aren't putting their marketing dollars and strategy, but also it doesn't align because this is where most prospects want to actually, how they want to actually engage with you when they're doing their research on you. So this is really part one, like foundational is to have online reviews. And I'll build that foundation here in a second and it'll make a little bit more sense. Thank you, Morgan, for the comment in the chat. We have all been there. Geez, okay. I talk a lot, so this is what I get for that. Okay. The other thing that's so important to consider when you think about client reviews, like we could talk about social proof, people want to do what other people say or do, is just really what they reveal. And they reveal that there's this relationship alpha that is determined by the client, how they really feel and view the relationship outside of just investment returns. So when we look at actual client reviews, this is something that we did at Wealthtender. We looked at over 2,500 actual client reviews left by clients on their financial advisor. We can see that most reviews are going to focus on personalized planning. They use words like trust, communication. This is really what most reviews are talking about. Very few reviews, rarely do clients actually talk about the investment, right? So there's just the data is there. It shows us clients value the emotional side of the relationship. That's what they're looking for in their prospecting as well. Anything you'd add here, Rylan?
Yeah, definitely. I think the overarching theme that I see and what we kind of consult with advisors is like you need the infrastructure built even kind of before you're doing the outbound. So before like build like having that niche, like definitely making sure like you have client testimonials and reviews that people when they search your name, make sure your website is clean and modern and up to date. Like having the infrastructure to build because like as everyone knows, like ChatGPT is just pulling from web sources and everything. So they're pulling from your website, different blogs, like LinkedIn, like posts and all that stuff. And so having the infrastructure there is like foundational. And then you could really pour gasoline on it. And that's kind of how I see Wealthtender and WealthFeed really a great partnership.
I completely agree. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And it's truly a system, right?
Hmm.
When you serve your clients well, you listen to them, right? And you allow them to really leave reviews that give you feedback that you need to go and say, hey, I want to apply this information, this language on my website, across my marketing. This is how you start to build that niche, right? What are your clients saying right now? Who are they? Use that content and then just go put that on your website, right? Go and make sure you're talking to that audience
Hmm.
across other platforms. And when you do outreach on a tool like WealthFeed, make sure you're being personal there as well, like using some of this language. It really starts to become a feedback loop for financial advisors. I'll
Hmm.
take you through like a quick example too of the power of having reviews as that foundation. And then, again, like making sure you have content across these different pages online. The first page that you can control is your website. And so what we refer to this at Wealthtender as is sort of your on-site answer engine optimization. As just a quick refresher, answer engine optimization at AI SEO is another way people refer to it. But this is really what's important now if you want to be referenced, recommended, and build that reputation in a tool like Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity, any of these AI tools that your clients are using or that prospects are using to search you. So
Hmm.
on-site's your website. This is Wealth Whitman Management. This is a wealth management firm ran by Beverly Whitman, who we'll see on the next slide. And this is her just kind of scroller of reviews that she's gotten from clients. So she has them on her website. That's sort of the first box to check. But she's also got them on her Wealthtender profile. This is where Wealthtender comes in and where offsite AEO becomes really important. So offsite
Hmm.
is basically every other page out there about you that you don't own or manage and what they're saying about you. So when you put yourself on a directory like Wealthtender, and there's others out there in the space, right? CFP board, the FPA has one, wherever your NAPFA, whatever organizations you're part of, like take advantage of that because that is instantly doubling down on that offsite AEO strategy. And what we know from data is that these AI tools love offsite mentions. In fact, they actually
Hmm.
value them more than just what's on your website. Although that's still very important. Now you need to make sure that you have other platforms, other websites featuring you. This is one way, getting on a directory, right? Another way is winning awards and having other websites publish you in an award feature
Hmm.
page, for example. And there's other ways to mention media opportunities. If you're talking to reporters and they're featuring you in an article or you're a contributor somewhere, those are other ways to get featured as well. That's all the offsite, and it's become increasingly important. We do a quick search on Google. Even that looks different now, right? Because now on Google, you have an AI overview with an authoritative answer, some links that it's pulled from, and then, someone's website, the website's below. And you can see we even have wealth tenders popping up when we ask, hey, what are people saying about Whitman Wealth Management, which is a very valid and possible search from a prospect after you've sent them a
hmm
letter or after you've sent them
hmm
a LinkedIn message.
hmm
So it's pulling from both. So this is really important to know. And even if you were to go in ChatGPT, which is the screenshot that you see here, and ask there, you can see also what it's doing. And it's pulling reviews from different pages, from the website, but also pulling from Wealthtender. So Wealthtender does have a pretty prominent presence on AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, which is exciting and is exactly why advisors like Jason, who also use WealthFeed, appreciate using Wealthtender, because you get that instant AEO, that instant answer engine optimization. Okay, so if I'm going to summarize it for you, like what is this 3-part trust stack? I just kind of touched on a few things there. We'll do it in 3 quick slides. Before I move on, I just want to quickly check the chat and just remind everyone, if you have any questions that come up along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll get to a live Q&A here very soon, but we'll cover it in 3 quick slides. Rylan, anything else to add before I move on?
Yeah, I think one thing, Diana, is once you have the infrastructure and now people see kind of could go see the reviews that you're posting, you also have to think about how I say, okay, you have to cover the basis of, okay, if someone's saying, who's the best advisor in my area, tell me more about the specific firm, that's where you need Wealth Tender. And then, but you also have to think about what if that individual is trying to like use ChatGPT as their financial advisor. Like how like a lot of people I know I've done it myself is like for budgeting or cash flow, like I'm going straight to ChatGPT versus like calling up my advisor. And so I think that's where that outreach still needs to be happening. And even more now because more consumers are going to a large language model and asking it financial advising questions that 10 years ago, like they had to go to an advisor. I mean, you couldn't even buy a mutual fund without a financial advisor like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And
Yep.
so we're seeing a lot where you have to be doing net new outreach to really get in front of this because a lot of people are turning to a model for their advisor. And we know that that relationship and everything, you could provide so much more value than what like just a chatbot can. And so that's where I think just having every basis covered from someone typing in what are reviews on a firm or tell me more about this person or even the basis of hey please be my advisor and now
Yep.
like trying to get your brand in front of them as well, so just making sure you have all your bases covered in terms of getting in front of people.
Yeah, and what these like LLMs can't do very well is what we can do very well, right?
Hmm
They can't be that like emotionally empathetic advisor that you can be, right? They
hmm
are there's so much that they're lacking even beyond emotion, but there's a lot that they can do as well, right? So I think our job is like, and this is something I shared at a conference last week that I had picked up from someone else, is like AI isn't coming for your job. It's coming for your old job, right? All the administrative tasks, the things that you don't have to really do anymore, the trading. But your new job is to really optimize this human side. And I think what's even more important, and to tie this here, is building a digital foundation that also reflects that. So spot on, Rylan. Thank you for sharing that. And we have a quick question in the chat. So Ben, we'll get to you in just a second. I'm going to go through these 3 points, or it looks like maybe you already answered it, Rylan. Awesome. And then we'll get to our live Q&A. So the first is get reviews. So we've already pretty much covered that. It's so important for so many different reasons, but there is some algorithmic magic actually happening on the back end of the internet, of your website and your reviews. In point 3, I will talk a little bit more though about just having a review is step 1. There's something you need to put on the back of your review to make sure AI tools like ChatGPT know this is a review. I want to read from this, pull from this, source this, and recommend this to other people. But part 1 is that foundation. Getting reviews is pretty much table stakes at this point. The second is build your reputation. So I mentioned that offsite AEO being so very critical right now. This is really where that starts to feed into. Not only do you want your clients' feedback shining online, but you also want what other people say about you as well. So this is where I talked about getting a third-party directory like Wealthtender, trying to get in the media or get quoted in some articles, become a contributor somewhere, apply for awards, get featured on award pages. All of this will really help tell these tools this is a credible person, right? This person, is clearly respected and there's a good reputation there. Which leads me to my third part is, okay, here's what other people are saying about you, but what are you saying as well? Your content is really important. Going in depth in your content on your website is more important than ever. Even making sure you can put your content on a site like Wealthtender, which yes, is possible, but on that directory page, making sure that you summarize somewhere on your content. So there's bullet points, there's numbered lists. AI tools love summaries and numbered lists, but then also you go deep and go deep multiple times on the same topic, just in different articles, for example, because that's showing tools like Gemini that you're an expert, that you have really deep domain authority and knowledge on these topics. But on the back end of all of this, on the back end of your reviews, of your awards, of your articles, your blog, your Q&A blogs, you also need something what we call schema markup. And so that's what you see here. And that's why point 3 is to really format your content for AI discoverability from both a writing and creation and production angle, but also from a structural angle on the website. So it's like there's like a code is essentially what schema markup does. So if you don't already work with your website provider on having that embedded, you absolutely should. That should be on your website at this point. But also platforms like Wealthtender already do this for you. So we have a review schema markup. We have an FAQ schema markup. We have a schema markup for any type of content. So we tell AI tools, hey, this is a review. This is an award. This is a blog post. Here's the summary bullet point list. That's what it really likes and what it values. And that's what's going to get you recommended. And especially what's going to help earn that response from a prospect that's doing their research about you. All right, I say we do an exercise and I stop talking at this point, but we'll do a quick exercise. And this is almost like, think of this as your AEO audit, if you will. So what is your score, your ranking on getting found online? But what you need to do first to actually do this is really need to do it from an anonymous browser. I think I misspelled anonymous big time. Okay, but open an anonymous browser, maybe on your phone or on your computer, and go to chatgpt.com and just do a quick search. Find a financial advisor for me put your city or town name there. And if you want, add some criteria. So if you are actually maybe someone searching for an advisor that provides services that you provide as an advisor, pretend you're that, right? And see what pops up. This is something that I encourage you to do often, not just once, but do it every 3 months. These tools have recency bias. They want to make sure that they're, getting up-to-date information. So this is why marketing and prospecting, this is an ongoing part of your business. We're just here to provide you with tools that make it a little bit easier. So feel free to share what you got, right? Share your experience doing this in the chat, or just keep it to yourselves and use that to improve on your AEO strategy, on your prospecting strategy as well. All right, Rylan. Here's a quick slide here if you want to share in the chat. If you came up, how you were stacked up against your competitors, what AI is even saying about you. I think these are 3 important questions to ask yourself as you go through this exercise. Okay, the last thing I want to cover, and Rylan, we could talk about this, and we'll also open it up for a Q&A, and those of you here can certainly book a demo with WealthFeed. There's a 20% off WealthFeed code right now, and as well as WealthFeed, you can learn a little bit more about Wealthtender. We'll come back to these. We'll drop some links in the chat here for you in a second. But I did want to just quickly talk through this last piece for anyone looking for just more ways to use AI strategically. WealthFeed did build this playbook, and it has to do with using alumni search and LinkedIn outreach and why that is such a beautiful pair. Rylan, I don't have the full playbook pulled up. If you want, I can pull it up to scroll through, or we can pop it in the chat.
Yeah, let me, I could actually pull it up here and then
Okay.
we could go through it. And then Let's see.
Perfect. I
Okay,
think,
perfect. Let me share my screen again.
okay.
Um, yeah, so in terms of like playbooks, like we have a ton of tips and tricks. Once you guys are users of WealthFeed, we really try to collaborate. Hey, what's working? Like, let's not try to recreate the wheel. Something that is working really well and it's just kind of basic. And a lot of people just, like I said, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that sometimes advisors don't think of. And one of them is just an alma mater outreach.
Mm,
There's something just about if someone reached out around your alma mater where it just like almost like no one like it creates that like barrier of a little bit like, oh, I want to hear like what you have to offer and say. And so there's a like a quick like trust gap that gets filled really easily. And so within WealthFeed, it's pretty simple. You could search anywhere in the country. And then we do have an alma mater filter, and you could add in and layer on some different filters. So let's say if you're still really focused on retirees, or you're still trying to go up market and say, I only want to talk to people over $10 million, you could add these additional filters within WealthFeed and we'll provide you, hey, here's alumni. And the good thing is, it doesn't have to be local, but like alumni, you could be reaching out now with Zoom and people are more comfortable with having advisors out of state. I think you could be reaching out across state lines
yeah.
if you're obviously registered and stuff like that. But definitely take advantage of the platform, the breadth and depth of the data to filter for your alumni. Um, and then almost kind of the step-by-step process is really, okay, let's send a LinkedIn connection to that individual. And then you could add a message maybe a day later once they accept and say, and I like having the connection blank because I get a lot of like in-mail stuff and it comes across a little spamish. So with WealthFeed, you could actually send like automate blank connection requests like you would do normally to someone that you know. And then what you could do within the WealthFeed platform is create delays. So you could actually like say, hey, I want to connect with this prospect, and then let's wait 5 days to try to make it a little more natural. And then you
Yeah.
could be like, hey, great connect with a, University of Arizona alumni.
Mhm.
And just it doesn't, you don't have to get to the sale quick. Like think of this as like an asset for life. And what that means is like if you focus on doctors or whatever your niche is or your alumni, that's someone you should be dripping on honestly forever. Like think of monthly newsletters to provide value, maybe what's going on in the markets. Don't think of this person as just a lead in that point in time. Okay, Bob Smith, who went to
Right.
my University of Arizona, if he doesn't respond tomorrow, like he's a bad prospect. This is your
How it works.
audience, you
Yeah.
know. So just keep them in the drip campaign so you could set additional delays. Like, okay, maybe a month later, you could have a follow-up message. Hey, I'm here as a resource. And then maybe another week later, a month later, you could be like another message. Hey, what's going on with market volatility? And maybe another month later, you could have like you just kind of keep light dripping on them. And it doesn't have to be over salesy. It's just, hey, I'm the resource. Any questions that are going on, like I'm your go-to person instead of going
Yeah.
to ChatGPT, talk to a human.
Yeah.
And so I'll send this around. I'll get the participants list and send this around as a takeaway. But
Cool. That's great.
just some small stuff to think about in terms of how you think about your database,
Yep.
and just making sure you're continuing to nurture those ideal prospects on an ongoing basis.
That's wonderful. Love that. Can you still see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yep. So if you're interested in learning more about Wealth Feed, feel free to scan the QR code. You'll be able to book a demo. Rylan also dropped a couple of links in the chat box, and then screenshot this code. It'll give you 20% off the Wealth Feed platform. And then I know we did have a question that came in from someone who just wanted to know if there was anything in Wealth Feed that helps identify target widows. And there is. You can filter by surviving spouse. So we got that one answered. And then someone said, I'm affiliated with LPL. Is WealthFeed able to work with LPL advisors? My understanding is that all communication has to go through LPL compliance. So how would that play out with the messaging campaigns and automations?
Yeah, great question. We have a specific environment for LPL advisors that are because a lot of things you need to get approval on. So feel free to book a demo, and I could show you the parts of our platform that are approved and whatnot. So definitely a little bit different than our off the shelf
Mm-hmm.
product. But great question.
Yep. And typically how it goes, right? There's always customizations for other types of advisors for LPL, there's always compliance. So we're here to
Mhm.
work through compliance as well. Okay, so if you are interested in Wealthtender, remember we are an online finds and advisor directory. We're also the first SEC compliant testimonial marketing platform. We've built out everything you need from a tech standpoint to collect and promote your client reviews compliantly. And we make everything really easy. If you sign up today, we'll actually just go ahead and set up your profile for you. It'll be ready by tomorrow. You can go online, you can publish. If you have Google reviews, you can also import them into Wealthtender, which we highly recommend. And we can help you do this because the moment you do this, now again, you're doubling, tripling down your chances of these AI tools to pick up your content, especially with reviews on Wealthtender. We've actually had advisors who have literally said, thanks to importing my Google reviews into Wealthtender today, I'm now sourced by Gemini as a recommended advisor. Gemini owns Google, so you'd think it would pick up its own Google reviews, but that doesn't always happen. So again, the importance of duplication here, of offsite duplication for your answer engine optimization. So scan the QR code. There's also a link in the chat that I dropped, and you can click there and sign up today. And again, we'll have your profile ready for you tomorrow, and you can go live. And it's fun. It's got a little bit more about you, what people can expect in the first meeting, a link directly to your calendar, a photo of you. You can put a video of you on your profile if you'd like as well. There's a lot of different things you can do, but we'll fill it out first based on what we can find online about you and then have you review it. So with that, if there aren't any other questions, I'll just do one last call for any last questions. You guys have been great. Thanks for being here, participating, and asking some good questions. If you have any more, feel free to drop it in the chat. Rylan, do you have any last things you want to add to the webinar?
No, I think this is just hopefully, as everyone knows, it's kind of becoming table stakes. So if you aren't doing these things, if you aren't on Wealthtender, if you're not reaching out to your ideal prospects through WealthFeed, definitely is something to get up and running, and we could get up and running really fast. So that's the beauty nowadays is you could kind of have a turnkey solution, overnight. And I think definitely organic growth is a real struggle. I mean, I remember when I was advisor, it was hard to even get my parents to become clients. So we know how hard it is. And I think nowadays there's a lot of easier tech tools and methodologies that could really help you meet your goals and grow AUM. So if any other questions, feel free. I put in a one-on-one demo link.
Cool.
um, I'll throw in my email to the chat too. Feel free to shoot me off a one-off email.
Perfect.
But yeah, that's it, Diana, on my end.
That's awesome.
Round
I'm
it.
going to put an email in the chat too. Thanks for mentioning that. We did have one last question, and it is such a good one. Morgan asks, with the world of AI expanding rapidly, it can be overwhelming to know what area to refine first. If you had to pick one channel to prioritize, what would you recommend? Social media, website, etc. I feel like we'll both have different answers to this, Rylan. Maybe, maybe not, but I'll take a first stab at it.
Yeah. Oh,
And because there's really like when you think about, areas of your business, AI is impacting everything at this point. So if we're narrowing that down to just marketing, then we also could narrow it down to prospecting and marketing and brand building. And
mhm.
like they require different components. So like to ask me which channel on that marketing brand building side with social media or your website, like what's most important. I'm gonna sound pretty biased because my response is go offsite, get a directory
Mhm.
listing as soon as possible. It's one of the most low cost, low lift marketing strategies you could have right now, optimized for AI and how AI is changing things. And then beyond that, I'd say your website, then social
Yeah.
media. Although social search is also pretty big, but I think you have a little bit more time with that one.
Yeah. No, I would add, Diana, my biggest thing, and I think it's offline and website for sure. You need the foundation. I Countless advisor websites are so outdated, and so this is kind of I think like a call to action to, hey, like definitely make sure your website doesn't look like it was built in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then the low hanging fruit is just having an offsite in terms of to help with AEO now, SEO, Google search. And then I just think social is a little bit saturated in terms there's so much ads now, and that's why my biggest in terms of outreach, once you have the foundation of the website and Wealthtender, is thinking of just some analog strategies. That's why I brought up the handwritten notes. Is something that no advisor, I'm sure 9 out of 10 advisors in your area aren't doing direct mail, especially not writing handwritten notes. You could outsource them through us, but if you want to really take a bigger approach, like sit down and write maybe 10 handwritten notes a month. Maybe it take you 30 minutes of your whole month and send it to your super high, targeted audience. And I'm sure the snowball effect will happen. And that's really how you build trust. So definitely websites, but just think of some stuff outside the box too that, other advisors aren't doing. And that's why I love direct mail.
Me too. I like direct mail. I like seminars.
Yeah.
People might say, "Oh my gosh, that sounds so old school," but it's also what's really working well right now.
Yeah.
In this such digital heavy world, it's like you said, going back analog, and so this all really works nicely together. I know, Rylan, we've talked about you being able to use the features on your platform to reach out to prospects and talk about an event that you might be hosting, like a seminar
Hmm.
or a webinar. I love the handwritten, that the fact that they're not writing it, right? Advisors aren't writing it. You have a company that does it. It does it on their
Hmm.
behalf. So like that alone saves so much time. That's where AI is going to help you, right? So like you can do it
Hmm.
the old school way, you can do it the more modern way and have AI
Hmm.
help you scale it. That's what's beautiful right now. So you just got to get a little creative. Thank you, Rylan,
Hmm.
because what you guys have built is very creative and it's very timely. And I love the intention behind it. And I think a lot of advisors do as well. So we've loved having you. Thank you for sharing everything today about WealthFeed, for putting some links in the chat, your email. Everyone knows where they can contact you. Of course, Morgan, thank you for asking such an insightful question. I think with that, we'll wrap up our webinar, Rylan. Thank you again for being here,
Perfect.
everyone. It was a pleasure having you today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll
Thanks,
talk soon.
everyone.
See ya.
Bye.